but you can watch the video already. The video is already on my Canvas homepage, which I'm about to show you guys. Okay, so here is the video link for the quiz. Okay, this is me going through all the questions of the quiz and all the answers. You'll see that one in orange? It's the only one in orange on the entire page. Okay, got it? So you can view the video. It's 29 minutes long, and it has me going through every question and every answer. Right now, you can't actually get to the quiz. All right, it will post Thursday. I think it's a Thursday midnight when it shows up. So in other words, people can start taking it if they're virtual Thursday anytime. Okay. All right. Good morning, Megan.
Good morning.
Okay, Tuesday. I'm going to show you guys the worksheet first. So we're going to work backwards a little bit so you can see first what you're going to do. What? Huh? Open from Google. This one. You can see my instructions here. Minimum 3 bulleted points or 3 sentences per prompt. Okay, not cool. Can you guys load up this assignment? Tuesday, March 23rd, Outcomes of the Civil Rights Movement, Worksheet 1. Great. It's just on my part. I'm having a problem. It's wonderful. Let me try going to P7. P6 was a page that it was loaded straight into. So this is great that it's not working for me. Let's look together. Look, Tuesday, March 23rd, worksheet 1, right there. Outcomes Civil Rights Movement, worksheet 1. It should say 6 points. Did you find it? Okay. So this one, you can either give me 3 points per prompt, like 3 sentences, or you can write them as bulleted points. I'm fine with either. That first question is going to say based on source 1. The first question says based on source 1. Describe the purpose and impact the Civil Rights Act had on African Americans. The second question says based on source 4. Purpose and impact the Voting Rights Act had on African Americans. Okay, so this one's source 1, source 4. All right. I'm going to hit next so that you go to worksheet 2. Worksheet 2, you're going to write a paragraph, 5-sentence minimum. So you give me a topic sentence. This one, the paragraph, oops. Wants you to use sources 2 and 3. I'm going to write those words in different color. Worksheet 1. Question 1 is based on source 1. Question 2 is based on source 4. Okay, and those can be 3 bulleted points each. So that would be a total of 6 bulleted points on that first page. Or 3 sentences each. So if you did sentences, how many sentences total would you have to give me on page 1? 6. Okay. On page 2, which source does it want to use? Yes. So you're writing a paragraph, 5 sentences minimum, and that is sources 2 and 3. Okay. This fan for so loud. She's on the shutter door. All right, guys. Okay. So now we're going to go back to the resources. Okay, so if you want to, you can move your page back to resources. You don't have to. You can keep it open to worksheet 1, okay? I'm going to Tuesday, March 23rd, Outcomes of the Civil Rights Movement, text source 1, okay? You're welcome to just follow along with what projects on my smartboard. All right, guys? And you see, they're not necessarily long passages. Source 1, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 contained requirements barring discrimination. You have a question, Innocente? Okay. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 contained requirements barring discrimination and segregation in education, public facilities. What would be a public facility? Bathroom. Things that the public uses. Okay. Jobs and housing. It created the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to ensure fair hiring practices and establish a federal community relations service to assist local communities with civil rights issues. It's a big deal, guys. No discrimination in housing, no discrimination in hiring people, no discrimination in education, no discrimination in public facilities. Okay, no more the Jim Crow laws that were so very prevalent in the South. The bill also authorized the U.S. Office of Education to distribute financial aid to communities struggling to desegregate public schools, because it cost money to build new schools and to make schools unified. It's not like they could suddenly grow schools by pouring water on them, right? Did this school come out of the ground on its own? It costs money to build this. Y'all know that, right? It costs millions. So the Civil Rights Act, 1964, there's a lot of schools built in that time period. If you look around Shreveport, a lot of schools were built in the 60s. Why? Go to that last sentence of that paragraph. Is this a poor parish?
No.
Yes, there is high poverty in Caddo.
Oh.
This is a Title I school, meaning everybody eats breakfast and lunch for free. It's a Title I school, 100% Title I. Nobody pays for breakfast or lunch here. That means high poverty at this school. This whole district, all of Caddo, is high poverty. So let me say this again. If that says the U.S. Office of Education distributed financial aid, what is financial aid? Money. The country's Office of Education gave money to districts that were struggling to desegregate public schools. And this was going on in the 60s. Why would a lot of schools in Caddo Parish have been built in the 60s?
Because they had more money.
Because they had more money because of the Civil Rights Act. Y'all getting it now? A lot of the United States schools were built in the 60s because of the Civil Rights Act, guys. You drive through a lot of southern cities, and there's a lot of schools built in the 60s and 70s. A lot. And that's because there was influx of money. Money was designated for building schools so that schools would be desegregated. And that's a great thing, is it not? Let's get everybody together. When you share ideas, when you share thoughts, that's when you have gains. You can't separate people and have good ideas coming together. In science, I'm always having to prompt you guys to give me answers, aren't I? But when you try to think of something on your own, you tend to not do as well. When you guys work together, you get better ideas, don't you? That's how learning works. So when you desegregate, when you put people together, you have the most learning. Make sense? Desegregation is the way to learn, the way to do anything, even from just common sense methodology. Not even getting into any of the lessons we talked about yesterday. Because we saw and read some terrible things yesterday, right? Okay. So your source one, there's your source one. So go to your worksheet number 1 and write either 3 sentences to answer the prompt or 3 bulleted points. Okay. As of last night, when I checked Tammy, I didn't have Kimber's or Allie's work completed. So if you guys finish your work before I get back over there, resource 2, go ahead and work on that. Is that bothersome to y'all? Is that music going bothersome? Okay. What? It's making you what? I'm not gonna have anything with words going. Well, segregation is on the board. Try to spell desegregation. And D means without or un. I don't know if I told you guys yesterday I was wanting to pull up a picture of my son and Tamia. That to me speaks volumes. Tamia was very pregnant with Mila at the time. My favorite pictures of them. It's Adrian and Tamia holding hands. It's Adrian in his dress blues. They're going to a military ball in the picture. That is a picture of Unity, correct? That's the one that I almost put on the page for the background, the home page, instead of women's suffrage image. It's women's suffrage we're only doing tomorrow, whereas this whole unit is on civil rights. You know? That was also in the series. Can't tell they're in love, can you? That's sarcasm. Like I said, she's very much pregnant with Mila. No, that's a couple years ago. And that's a baby shower. That's her dad. You had missed what I had said about it yesterday, Skyuna. Craig and I didn't realize how much Adrian, Tamia, people make comments to them. He said at least once a month. Friday, he took Tamia to the dentist, and there were so many negative comments about them being a mixed race couple. We didn't know that people say stuff that often to them. We've had to go to counseling about it. We're very much still in a time of a lot of racism in the South. I know it went on a lot in Tennessee because we've been in Middle Tennessee. It's not so much in Memphis, but Middle Tennessee. They're very, very backwards. You're likely at nighttime in Middle Tennessee to still see people burning crosses in yards. Didn't know it still went on down here like it does. Because Adrian said, Tamia came home crying, and she's one that takes things to heart. She's so much like being uncanny. She gets her feelings hurt and she takes it personally. Adrian's just angry and quiet. My husband and I, we say stuff back because we're old enough. We're going to pop back. So will Ian. But how anybody could ever say anything rude or mean when the outcome is, well, I mean, you saw the picture that shows how much the two of them are in love. Wait till Mia looks at Adrian, but then this little person's the outcome. I mean, it's not Adrian to me that's the problem. It's other people. It is, they do not know better. And they need to shut them out. Okay, has everybody answered that first question? Either with 3 sentences or 3 bulleted points. So it's 3 ways that the Civil Rights Act, its purpose, and 2 impacts it had on African Americans. What was the purpose of the Civil Rights Act, and 2 impacts that the act had on African Americans? And really, guys, it's not just impacts on African Americans, it's impacts on everybody. All right, if you're still writing, raise your paw. Okay, you got a couple minutes. Put your mask on the table. We'll all be glad when they get rid of these mask mandates, but until then, we have to wear them. I know we're all sick of them. Good morning, Logan. Late bus or miss the bus?
Shoot on.
What is it?
Shoot on.
Shoe drawing.
Y'all. I want to shoot that 5x3. I'm wondering how that goes.
So there on Tuesday, March 23rd, Outcomes in Civil Rights Movement worksheet number 1. You're supposed to, on question number 1, write the purpose and 2 impacts of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Who is still writing this? Okay. No, we still have to do the bottom part, which is source 4. Do not hit submit yet. Okay, you only have 3 questions to go, so we have time. Okay. Are you still working on question number one? You finished? All right, is everybody else other than Logan finished with question number one? Okay. So I'm going to skip to source 4 because that is the one that the bottom of worksheet 1 asks about. Okay. So outcomes of the civil rights movement, text source 4. I believe this one with James Taylor, but I might be wrong. Yes, clearly I'm wrong. Oop, too far. Okay, Voting Rights Act of 1965. Johnson, when they say Johnson, they're talking about the president, informed the nation that he was sending a new voting rights bill to Congress, and he urged Congress to vote the bill into law. Congress complied, and President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 on August 6, 1965. The bill outlawed poll taxes, literacy tests, and other practices that had effectively prevented Southern African Americans from voting. It authorized the U.S. Attorney General to send federal officials to the South to register Black voters in the event that local registrars did not comply with the law. And it also authorized the federal government to supervise elections in districts that had disenfranchised African Americans. To disenfranchise means to turn away, to make upset, to not allow African Americans. So he said all these different districts, and there were so many in the South, had disallowed African Americans from voting through the use of poll taxes and those literacy tests. He said since the local good old boys, the police departments, the sheriffs, the registrars, which are the people that register voters, had disallowed African Americans from voting, I'm going to send in federal government officials like marshals and National Guard to supervise and register voters and make sure voter registration occurs as it's supposed to, and make sure the people that I'm saying are allowed to vote get to vote, and they get to register to vote. They no longer have problems doing what they're supposed to do. Does that make sense? Okay. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 transformed patterns of political power in the South. By the middle of 1966, over 500,000 Southern African Americans had registered to vote. And by 1968, almost 400 Black people had been elected to office. So in 3 years, there was finally a change started. Okay. So if you look at your worksheet, the bottom question says, based on source 4, which is this one, describe the purpose of the Voting Rights Act and 2 impacts that act had on African Americans. Okay, so you're going to tell the purpose of the Voting Rights Act and 2 impacts it had on Southern African Americans. Okay, you can either do it as bulleted points or as 3 sentences. Okay, guys. When you finish with this page, hit submit. Just FYI, this page is worth 6 points. The pages, the paragraph will be worth 10 points. Okay. So all total today's worth 16 points. That's going to be all in 4th 9 weeks. see that you got your work done from yesterday. Good job, Miss Sentai. Who is still working on this one? Okay.
Do we submit when we're finished?
On that page, yes, ma'am, absolutely. We still have another page to go, and I'm gonna read both of those sources in a few minutes, okay? While students are working, I'm going through and grading virtual students' work on the other computer.
Okay.
Now I'm on four. Okay, who is still working on this assignment? I am Kayla, Logan. You know, okay. You have 3 more minutes to work on this one, okay? That means at 9:02, I start reading source 2, okay?
One more minute, friends, okay? Yes, please. Yes, go to worksheet 2, please. Are you looking at all the lovely documents that I've added to it, Kimber? Okay, there you go. All right. Source 2, politics. Post 1968. What do they mean by post 1968? That'd be pre. Post means after. So right now, if we say post 2020, we mean after 2020. We're talking about in the time after COVID hit. Everybody understand that? We're all living post 2020. Look, it's literally on our face, aren't we? We're living post 2020 right now, aren't we? We're living with either paper or cloth on us, right? We know what we mean by post 2020. Yes? Okay. Post 1968, African Americans who had been very active in the civil rights movement entered the world of politics to ensure that the rights they had won over the previous decades were not lost on future generations. The political influence of the civil rights movement can even be seen in the modern day with the election of America's first African American president, Barack Obama. I'm going to go one further. Do we have someone that's followed up after Barack Obama? Who? The vice president. Who's that? Who? Vice president who?
What's she called?
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. She also is African American. So this is a matter of the civil rights movement. It started with political changes, and now it's moved into cultural changes, hasn't it? Barack Obama was our first African American president. We now have an African American female vice president, right? That's your source 2. Now I'm going to pull up your source 3. Now, I'm guessing you guys don't know who James Brown is. You poor people. All right. The civil rights movement, let me zoom in just a little bit more. The civil rights movement has had a very heavy and direct influence on American culture since the 1960s. As more African Americans gained political and economic equality with whites, they also gained more visibility as African American culture began to flood the whole of American culture. African American music, television, and history became part of American culture, with musicians and television stars exploding onto the scene. In 1968, James Brown released his hit, Say It Loud, I'm Black and Proud. With this release, an anthem was born. Everybody's heard of jazz? Yes?
No. Yes.
Jazz is traditionally an African American style of music. That is the cultural influence from African American music. Okay, so your paragraph that you're writing says, describe 2 ways the civil rights movement impacted American culture. I can't help you with your topic sentence because your topic sentence has to do with what 2 ways you're going to choose to describe how culture was impacted. Okay, so you need to come up first what 2 ways you're going to describe. Then write your topic sentence with those 2 ways, and then 3 body sentences and a concluding sentence. You've got about 40 minutes. Okay. Just to jog your memory, is not Michael Jackson a well-known African American performer? What about Tina Turner? No. So James Brown is mentioned in that article. Everybody heard of Prince?
Who's that?
Purple Rain,
Oh, my mom loves that.
Little Red Corvette. Tina Turner. I'm trying to think of people who were around close to this time.
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama.
Whoa, whoa. Mommy. Obama. Obama. He's a
Former president, dude. That's the difference.
not a president. Oh, you're talking about vice president. No, she's a singer. Michael Jackson. Talking about singers, not president. No one Washington. Why not Trombone Shorty? What? Shorty.
My boy, Bone Shorty, but that was older, but yeah, that was much older. That would be before the civil rights movement. That's going back. Yeah, we're trying to get to the 60s.
James Brown. Oh, how bad.
That would not be a singer.
I know, that'd be.
Yes.
Martha Luther King. Preacher. Are we talking about singers? Yes. Oh, I think it's alright. We get the book on them. I'm gonna cry. I'm confused. Yeah. I don't think that's the first.
Okay, so all I was trying to do is activate a little bit of memory in your head that there's more than just James Brown as a performer. Okay, y'all get that, right? All right, so y'all heard of this? Motown? No,
Right. Just right. Think about what two cultural influences you want to mention in your paragraph. Come up with your topic sentence, then your 3 body sentences in your concluding sentence, okay? Everybody heard of Jimi Hendrix?
No.
Ray Charles? No, I don't. Ray Charles?
No. Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan.
Louis Armstrong?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Louis Armstrong from New Orleans.
That's a thing that is.
Yeah.
That's an actor. I know somebody.
All right, quiet. Paragraph time. Hush. Bryson. Bless you. Still alcohol might actually help you watch things too. They say we could do alcohol. Might help you. Always helps me. Also helps with nausea when you're sick of your stomach to get sanitizer. I don't know what it is, but smell of alcohol, but it helps with allergies. Helps with nausea too. Just your eyes really allergies. Everything's blooming outside. There's yellow. See all the yellow in the pine trees? That's all pollen.
When we were doing the flag basketball, like the ground was yellow when we did that.
Everything's so pretty and flowery outside. Smith. When you finish your paragraph, guys, hit submit, okay? Who is still writing? Okay, majority of the class. You read a book, you can do the math learn, or you can do your science pictures or
Oh, God. It's two, it's two, three. Does that mean African American or
what is it?
does that mean African American? With the same thing?
What was your question?
For the second page, isn't for two, three.
Can you speak up?
For the second page, the civil rights movement impacted how they impacted the American culture. Is that African American?
Well, it impacted all American culture. Please do make your font 14 or larger. If I'm not mistaken, you can make it 18 that fits on that line perfectly. What's that? You have your little ticket. It'll be the only time you get to go this whole week. Right? Supposed to go before school. Apparently you didn't go before school today, did you? Yes. It is affecting the American music, culture, politics. afterwards. And you realize that everybody else has been working on their paragraph now for 28 minutes. You're just now getting to paragraph. Right. Do not forget, my students who have discoveries today, pack up your backpack before you go to enrichment.
I finished.
All right, hit submit.
It's submitting.
Awesome.
It's submitted.
Awesome. And I got your test prep in the grade book, okay, Megan?
Okay.
Thank you. We will see you tomorrow, okay?
Okay. Bye.
That's all.
That's it. Actually,